Hello and welcome to KPIs in Integrated Reporting. My name is Dr. Benjamin Lynch and I will be your guide through this topic. So let's jump right in with our first unit, measurement and KPIs. Let's start our conversation about measurement by highlighting its importance to both management and business success. A famous quote states, "What gets measured gets managed," and it's true. In order for a company to know whether it's achieving its goals, be they financial or sustainability related, they need a way to set targets and judge progress towards them. If a company does not measure its performance, it has no idea whether it's doing well or poorly. Hence, measurement is both a necessary precursor to management and also a check and control for management. So, measurement is important, but how do we do it? Well, we can measure using KPIs, or key performance indicators. These are quantifiable measures of performance over time for a specific and important objective. They provide targets, milestones to gauge progress. They allow for better decision making because they give feedback to the management on how successful their previous decisions were. And overall, they provide insight into the performance of a company on key dimensions, be they financial or sustainability related. Now that we know that KPIs can be used to measure the performance of the company, the next question we need to answer is what are the characteristics that differentiate a good KPI from a bad KPI? Well, there are four main characteristics. First, a KPI should be comparable. KPIs are used to compare the performance of a firm over time or compare the performance of one firm with another. In order to be able to do this, they need to be consistent through time and across firms or across organizations. So first idea is they need to be comparable. Secondly, they need to be reliable. They need not involve an excessive number of assumptions or unknowns that would render the metrics too arbitrary to provide a faithful representation of what's going on. Thirdly, they need to be insightful about how the company impacts or is impacted by its external environment. So, a KPI stands for key performance indicator, so they have to be important. So what is measured should be material or important to either the company or the company stakeholders. Finally, the KPIs should be contextualized. There should be information provided alongside the KPIs to ensure that any changes in the external environment that impact the measurement of the KPIs are explained so that no false readings of the KPIs can obscure the true performance of the company. The next question we might want to consider is, what can we measure using these KPIs? In order to answer this question, we can look at the 6 capitals model from the Integrated Reporting Framework. It says that capitals are stocks of value on which all organizations depend for their success as inputs to their business model. Additionally, through their business activities and outputs, organizations affect the capitals positively or negatively. So the question is, what should we measure? And the answer for integrated reporting is the 6 capitals. This includes the traditionally measured financial capital and manufactured capital, in addition to intellectual capital, social, cultural, relationship capital, human capital, and natural capital. So in order to be able to include these in our reports, we need to measure key performance indicators that tell us how are we performing on these different capitals. When we measure the capitals, we can do so at a number of stages. We can measure the inputs into the business, things such as the amount of electricity it uses, the number of employees it has, or the amount of raw materials. We can also measure the outputs of the business. The primary output of any business is the product or service that it creates, but there are also other unintended outputs such as waste and emissions that can be measured using KPIs. Finally, we can measure the outcomes of the whole process. This is the consequences of the business's activities and outputs on the capitals. So remember, within a company, capitals are transformed. An example of this would be if a company invested money in training its employees, this would lead to a reduction in financial capital, but an increase in human capital. So we need metrics not only to capture the decrease in financial capital, but also to capture the increase in human capital. Another way to look at measures is to think of measures that measure stocks of value, such as the capitals themselves at the beginning or the end of a period, flows of value, which is the change in these metrics during a period, and then performance measures. So performance measure could be the difference between the stock at the beginning and the end of the period. So there are many different ways and points at which we can measure capitals using KPIs. As we draw to a close, I would like to thank you for your time and attention, and I will see you in the next unit.